This is Diesel for We the People News. Man, this video is actually, I didn't even pay attention to how long this video was. But we need to know it. And I do this for y'all also, but more of anything else, it'd be on my YouTube where I can look it up and research it and study it and all that kind of stuff. And if I need a refreshing, like some people, I didn't have all kinds of equipment to be able for me to put down on record, per se, on the things I did learn. Okay? So a lot of things that I just happen to remember me studying and researching, but remembering their details I did not know. Alright? See if I can get this cleared up a little bit more. Some of this is pretty important. I don't know. I hate this camera. Anyway, this is not for commercial use or commerce or anything like that. It's a learning video, y'all. You can take it as you wish. However, when you're watching this, always keep an open mind, right? Never look just straight forward. Always look around you. That way you can be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Only a foolish person don't learn. Alright? This may be correct and it may be false. I don't know. But once you start researching and studying, you may get some ideas that may change your mind. This is just a learning video, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and proceed forward on this. Alrighty.
Colorado in 1867.
It's also in a book in the archives of Maine, written for the children of Maine to educate them as to the Constitution of the United States, or the United States of America, and the Maine Constitution.
Well, in 1820, every publication in every state and the Army Manual republished their laws, the laws of Virginia, with the Constitution of the United States and the 13th Amendment, because they had to be published. And so in 1820, every single law book in the country republished itself to include the 13th Amendment. It was ratified. It is on there.
Was it signed by the Secretary of State or the President?
What?
Was the 13th Amendment ratified by the Secretary of State?
By the states. It has to be ratified by the states. When an amendment goes out, the states have to sign on to it. It has to be ratified by X number of states, probably 2/3. And then it's an amendment.
And then the U.S. Secretary of State signs it when all that's done.
Well, the Secretary of State for Texas is supposed to sign off on the laws that pass the legislature too, do they?
Yeah.
Probably in that day they did. They don't.
So the 16th Amendment, it was signed without it being fully ratified.
Well, anything after the original 13th is bunk, okay? The 12th Amendment, the one prior to the 13th, was adopted on September 25th, 1804. The 13th, sometime in 1817, and it was printed over after December 18th, 1865, when the current 13th Amendment was adopted. It was simply printed over. Just like they're reprinting history now, aren't they? I mean, we never did anything in the South except be dogs and murders and rapists, and they're deleting us from the history.
We live in the Orwellian world.
You know, it's definitely Orwellian. The corruption of the courts has grown exponentially since the bar became a legislated union. The bar is a union in violation of Antitrust Act. The bar is managed by the Supreme Court. The rules for the court are promulgated by the Supreme Court. The system is one in which there is no outside oversight, and it stands in defiance of separation of powers. The institution of the bar and the corruption of the attorneys has has all but decimated the First Amendment. We have no redress of grievance anymore and no way to hold the government accountable. They build magnificent temples to their gods at our expense, where the motto is courage, perseverance, sacrifice. Guess who the lambs are? That's over the Travis County Courthouse with Zeus up there and putting people in bondage. That's the purpose of these courts. What did we miss? And the truth shall set you free from ignorance and error and the prejudices of education under which the whole nation labors, and from the thraldom of the law. That's my favorite translation of John 8:32. Thraldom, the state of being a thrall, bondage, slavery, servitude. The truth shall make you free. We just have to speak the truth.
You have no rights unless you claim them and use them.
Got to stand up for them. But first, we have to know the truth. Were we ever taught in our public schools about our freedoms, liberties, and the rights of the people? Well, I'm from Utah. We were. And I'm old. We were. Back in the old days. Covered wagon, all that stuff. Perhaps it's because in our lifetimes we have been under occupation and the powers that be didn't want us to know the truth. Do you all know what the Law of Nations is? We've already discussed that. It's mentioned in the Constitution. We already saw that. Do you know that the Law of Nations talks about natural rights? The rights we have simply because we are men on earth? Natural rights are rights granted to all people by nature or God and cannot be denied or restricted by any government or individual. Natural rights are often said to be granted to people by natural law. Do you know how to express or execute your natural rights? Nobody?
We're supposed to have the right of self-determination.
Wait, we're coming to that. Good thought. No, don't wait. I like to hear that. Legal rights are rights granted by governments or legal systems. John Locke, your favorite, believed that fundamental rights are life, liberty, and property. He believed that the most basic human law of nature is the preservation of mankind. To serve that purpose, he reasoned, individuals have both a right and a duty to preserve their own lives. We're living a life under somebody else's terms now. We have to have our own lives. What does the Texas Constitution mandate that the free public schools are to teach? You know, there's an educational mandate in the Texas Constitution or state of Texas. Article 7, education, the public free schools. A general diffusion of knowledge being essential to the preservation of the liberties and rights of the people, it shall be the duty of the legislator of the state to establish and make suitable provision for the support and maintenance of an efficient system of public free schools. And what is the purpose of those schools? A diffusion of knowledge being essential to the preservation of liberties and rights of the people. You think they're teaching them? Do we currently have a constitutional education system? Is anyone here aware of the International Covenant on Civil Rights, Civil and Political Rights? Huh?
Vaguely.
Well, you better get unvague on that, baby, because it's going to save your, you know what. It is a treaty. It's an international covenant on political and civil rights. Everybody should carry it, just like the Declaration of Independence. This was adopted, I find this interesting, adopted and signed for signature ratification and accession by General Assembly on the 16th of December 1966 and entered on in 1977 in force. in accordance with Article 9, we'll have to come back to this in a second, but here's the thing. Bush sent a thing in 1996 to the Congress and said, please sign this treaty. Okay, in 1992, excuse me, Bush sent a letter. First of all, a treaty this covenant, I'll get to, here's the report, okay? The Committee on Foreign Relations adopted unanimously by the United Nations, it talks about the covenant, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on December 7, 1966, and signed on behalf of the United States on October 1977. They thought about it a while, didn't they? Well, you know, there were 4 human rights conventions that the UN adopted. This is, I think there's only one, and this is it. They don't want us really to be part of that, I think. The purpose, the covenant guarantees a broad spectrum of civil and political rights rooted in basic democratic values and freedoms to all individuals within the territory or under the jurisdiction of the state's party. That would be the United States of America. Without distinction of any kind, such as race, gender, ethnicity, etc., the covenant obligates each state party, the United States of America, to respect and ensure these rights, to adopt legislation or other necessary measures to give effect to these rights, and to provide an effective remedy to those whose rights are violated. They put a caveat on this. The Senate passed this, but it made it non-self-executing. Articles 1 through 27 of the covenant. The Senate said we're not self-executing. Now, what do you think that means? We don't have access to it. Like the Bill of Rights, is that okay? Let's talk about the 4 books, the Declaration of Independence, the blah blah blah. Are those self-executing? Yes, we are entitled to every right in those books. Those are self-executing. Is the Bill of Rights self-executing? Yes, we have the rights under the Bill of Rights. It says the covenant is not self-executing. And there's a reason for that. All peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of their right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. All peoples may, for their own ends, freely dispose of their natural wealth and resources without prejudice to any obligations arising out of international economic cooperation based upon the principle of mutual benefit and international law. Here, for instance, is an affidavit that I prepared for me. I haven't had the time to go down and file it. It says that I'm giving notice that I accept and embrace the principles in the International Covenant, thus executing the principles for my use and enjoyment. I give public notice that I claim and exercise my rights under the International Covenant. You can do that. Or I have another solution in a minute. In this country, a treaty is adopted by law as law by a proposal from the president. The president suggests the UN does a treaty. The president suggests that we do the treaty, and then it's ratified by the Senate. In this instance, the Senate made the reservation that Articles 1 through 27 were not self-executing. If you, as a man or woman, choose to exercise your rights under the covenant, you must claim them and declare them to be executed for you. The truth is, armed with both the declaration, this is the truth, the one that will make you free. Armed with both the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the International Covenant, we become a force with which to be reckoned. Article 2 of the Covenant frees us from taxation. The term principle of mutual benefit is the old rob Peter to pay Paul principle. Or, as Karl Marx said, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. When executed, the incorporation of the covenant frees you from taxation. The alleged purpose of taxation, in addition to enslaving us and charging for the enslavement or occupation, is allegedly for the public welfare or general good. These are the tenets of communism. The real purpose is to keep us in bondage. When I execute the covenant for myself, I give notice that I am free to dispose of my natural wealth and resources and free from contributing to the principles of mutual benefits. In other words, I'll keep what I earn and the next man can do the same. Or he can do with his whatever he wants. I just don't choose to give mine away. When the covenant is executed, the United States is bound by international treaty, law of nations, to take the necessary steps to adopt such laws or other measures as may be necessary to give effect to my rights. The federal government has to put in place laws that protect my rights under the international covenant when I claim them. Should the parties to the covenant, that's the United States of America, right, not ensure that my rights are protected, it or they are committing an offense under the law of nations. And do we see that's punishable? Yeah, we saw that. Perhaps we need to revisit the 6th article of the United States, of the U.S. Constitution, to once again enumerate our strengths. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notstanding. Those laws of the lands cannot be overridden by anyone. To make certain that they are bound to support those laws, Article 6, Section 3 says the senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. And no religious test shall, oh, forget that. That doesn't matter. And you know what they do? They put, so help me God, on the end of the oaths they take. And it says, no religious test. These guys just can't follow it. So there's always a loophole. They always leave themselves a way out. Once we have familiarized ourselves with the laws of the land and understand our rights, we need to stop the usurpation of our court system and do away with the current political system. If we want to continue to support political parties and elect judges and politicians to rule over us and make rules and regulations which restrict our rights, we can at least exercise some power by saying no. No oath, no office. No oath, no office. And none of them have an oath. And mean it. What did I tell you guys last time I saw you? Take your cardboard box into the judge and tell him to get out of your office. It's not his. Think about what we are doing and to what we have become accustomed. We elect local, county, state, and federal governments. Each of these layers has ordinances, codes, statutes, and restrictions we must follow. These governments meet daily or weekly or monthly or every other year and make more rules and regulations to restrict our freedom. What else are they doing? And we condone that? That's insanity. And these governments, why do we need this many governments who offer nothing but threats to our freedoms? We are merely supporting a system that takes from us and keeps on taking. We pay their salaries when many of us don't even have jobs. We pay their perks. We pay their retirements, and they are the ones who declare how much, dictated how much their retirements would be. Many positions, such as the city government or elected official, pay retirement after one term of office. We are in the private sector, and if we get a retirement, yet we work to pay for ours. We work to pay for theirs. We get no retirement, we pay for theirs. Let's look at two dudes we know pretty well here in Texas. John Cornyn. He was a district judge for 4 years. He got $6,000 retirement for that. 4 years retirement, $6,000. That's $500 a month for sitting for 4 years, not a problem. He was a judge in the 4th District, the 4th Judicial District, the appellate court, for 2 years. He was a judge in the Texas Supreme Court for 8 years. He gets $48,000 for that 10 years. He was a Texas AG for 3 years. He gets $10,132 from that. 3 years, $10,000 a year retirement. Not a problem. He's collected that $10,000 since 2006. But once he left Texas and went to the Senate, he collects it all now. It's $65,383 a year he gets for less than 20 years' work. Not bad. And now he makes $174,000 per year as a senator. And what will that retirement be? That's right. That's what it will be. Rick Perry. He was 5 years as an Air Force officer. He was 6 years as a Texas representative. He was 8 years as the agriculture commissioner. He was 1 year as lieutenant governor, and he was 14 years as governor. But while he was still a sitting governor, he decided that he needed to take his retirement, which he could do because of the law that Bob Bullock passed. And so in 2011, 4 years before he retired as governor, or he was retired, whatever, he collects $92,376 a year. And now he gets paid for whatever health position he holds now, but he doesn't ever go to a meeting. Oh yeah, he knows all about it. Well, it's wrong. I mean, I went to this Temple of the Gods up in Williamson County. Biggest courthouse I've ever seen. I mean, biggest courtroom. I mean, Supreme Court doesn't have a courtroom that size. And, I mean, the United States Supreme Court, the lady that got they paid $17 million for that building. It houses the JP and the constable. $17 million. And the lady that sits on the bench that got to move to the new building was a police officer for Round Rock for 20 years. So guess how much she gets paid besides $126,000 a year she gets for being a JP. And yet our chief judge, Nathan Hecht, went before the hearing the other day and said that judges need to be paid more in the state of Texas because they're just making mere nothing. $126,000 a year for a JP. $17 million for their temple. I mean, come on, this is insanity.
Could it be called and prosecuted as conspiracy for that death?
Somebody voted him in. Somebody okayed the bonds. Everybody went along with it. This is what we do to ourselves. We do not need this many governments who offer nothing but threats to our freedoms. We are merely supporting a system that takes from us and keeps on taking. Okay, why? Think about the political process in this country. How big an industry is it really? There are candidates who are running for offices. I mean, they're prolific. I mean, they run for dog catcher. No, that's appointed, I think. They run for all kinds of positions. And they campaign. And they raise funds. And they make promises. These campaign funds can run into the millions of dollars for one candidate. Barack Obama spent $500 million the first time he ran for president for a $400,000 a year job. Does this make sense to anybody? Anybody?
They put the remainder of their advertisements and campaign into their retirement fund.
No, into their pocket.
Well,
Yeah, into the retirement fund. Yeah, they keep what they make. They keep what they get in campaign funds. What is the matter with us? I mean, Beto announces he's going to run for president. What chance does Beto have making it as president? $6.4 million in 24 hours. What the hell are people financing in this country? Funding.
uneducated. The
people of America are uneducated.
There is no correlation between the amount of money spent and the salary of the job that is won. It doesn't make sense. People who vote, and it is getting to be fewer and fewer of those. That's another thing about our system. It doesn't matter how few turn up at the polls, they count it as an election and the dude walks away. He might have 4% of the vote. In Europe, they say, nobody made it. It's no...
All right. I'm going to try this next one. Oh, man, I didn't realize it was so long. All right, we're going to cut it off here. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit longer so I can only make one more video.
So nobody gets anything. What the hell is the matter with us? We can't do that. Come on. 2%, 4%, 14% of the people are obligating us to debt? How do we allow this?
Because they all work for the government.
Now they do, don't they? And if not, we pay them Section 8 housing and all the, people who vote, and it's getting to be fewer and fewer of them, take elections seriously. Look at the candidates and make selections, or vote straight ticket for one of the two huge corporations whose business it is to keep us distracted. Who are these candidates? What are these offices, and what happens when the dust settles? Every election is part of the system. What does the system do? It keeps us distracted. Allegedly, it gives us hope. Every election cycle, we hope we can vote and make a difference. A difference about what? The reality is we are wasting time and money in order to put some other dude in a position to make ordinances, rules, and regulations that we don't need and do nothing but restrict our rights and freedoms. What is the matter with us? Do these people need to sit? What do we have? We have the law of the land, the supreme law of the land. That regulates everything. And it is not rules and regulations. We don't need any of those. We only need law.
There's a court ruling that says that rules, regulations, ordinances, and I don't remember what else, are not the law.
Well, they're not, but we believe they are. It's all belief system.
Right.
Every single elected body who sits, be it city, county, state, or federal, makes it their job to continually lay down a barrage of laws. What do those laws do, and why do we need them? Those rules and regulations are put in place to restrict our rights and freedoms. We look at Article 6 of the Constitution, which was written in 1787. What does it tell us besides Congress shall meet at least once a year and we have all the laws that we need? What are we doing? If Congress only had to meet at least one day a year, what the hell did they do when they got together? Hey, how's it going in your neck of the woods, John? All great. How about you? I said, everything's okay. Okay, see you next year. It's not to meet in session. Fight whatever it is they do. It's disgusting. It's pure insanity. We know the system is broken and can't be fixed. What can...
Okay. I'm going to end it on this one so I can proceed forward on the next one. All right. Bye, y'all.